I mean, I just gave that person 20 whatevers, dollars, euros, vegetables, whatever. They don't know it was me. So they got the vegetables, but I got this thing inside me. I got to see something about myself. That thing is not true. I'm actually good.
Hello, friends. John Dalton here, Further Emergence podcast, where we go into love, consciousness, and the mystery. I'm back in Ireland, as you can see from the rain. And in this episode, we're going into
The power of pausing, being consciously productive, seeing through your mind, what is in the mystery, and being an undercover saint.
So I had a question come in on TikTok, and this person says, what are some examples of ways to give pause to your momentum? How do you hook into the flow in a recognizable way? I'm looking for heuristics, something recognizable that can help me say, oh, this is a good place to pause and take it in. Let my heart bring me forward in good time. The writing is very small there. I'm struggling with that. So, heuristics, that's a good word, isn't it? Took me a minute to remember what that actually meant. It's to do with, tangible, you can feel it in your body. So this was in response to a question, was it a question? It was something I was talking about to do with pausing and putting the pause in. And that pausing the momentum of existence is a great thing to do. So the trick with pausing is to remember to do it. That's the whole thing. It's like we go unconscious and then we get caught up on the momentum, and I'm just going to do the next thing. I've just got to finish this next email. Then I've got to go and do this other thing, light the fire, wash the dishes, then this other email, then fix that thing on the website, then call this other person, and so on and so on. And then we get to the end of the day and there was no pause at all. So what you're trying to do is find a way of getting around that unconsciousness so that you do pause, so that you can pause and break it up. So one way I suggest is to set a little timer. I'd suggest this for on the meditation training, but it's a good thing to do anyway. Set a little timer for an hour and a half, no more than that. Like no, not 2 hours, not 3 hours, an hour and a half. An hour and 15 is good. Every hour is probably too soon because you'll get sick of it. And the alarm is to remind you to pause. The alarm is kind of to remind you this is an illusion, it's not real, there's a deeper reality going on inside you. That's what the alarm is for. And every time it goes off, if you can pause, if you can stop, even for an instant, and just drop everything, you'll feel that in your body for sure, but you'll also feel the build-up of momentum. Because when the alarm goes off, particularly if you're in the middle of something very important, you'll be like, I don't want to pause, I don't want to stop. In the meditation training, it's like, oh, I don't want to meditate. God, I haven't got time. I'm too busy with all this other stuff. I haven't got time for it. And that's kind of how momentum works. We keep going. So a little timer, either on your watch or your phone or something, every hour and a half is a great way of breaking up the momentum, There are other ways you can do it as well. Like if you're watching a movie and it gets to the climatic bit, movies in 3 acts, and the kind of big climactic scene is usually about 10 minutes from the end. And when you can feel it coming, just pause it. Just pause the movie and feel the momentum, Feel the momentum. If you've cooked a meal or you're about to have a meal and you're at that point where you're about to tuck in, just pause. And you'll feel the momentum of like it's going. Or driving, if you're driving somewhere. I find this one particularly hard. Once I start driving, I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop until I get where I'm going. Now if that takes me, if it's 5 hours, well, I probably will stop if it's 5 hours. But, generally I don't like to stop. So that's a good thing to do, is to just pull over for no reason. Once it's safe, pull over for no reason and just pause. It's not something that is going to come naturally, because we're naturally inclined to keep going with the momentum, because this is a momentous kind of existence. It's designed to be interesting, it's designed to be captivating, and one of the ways that keeps it all going is momentum. So yeah, those are some of the ways you can break up momentum, and you can feel it in your body. So this next question I got last week, and I answered it when I was still in Innsbruck. But I didn't have enough time in the last episode, so I've kept it for this episode. So we're going to go back in time. I'm going to answer the question in Innsbruck, and then we'll come back. Okay, I had a question come in on the Further Emergence Discord. What's that? Well, if you want to get onto that, just get in touch and I'll send you a link. The person says, "Hi John, any life hack to be consciously productive? I tried the 15-minute meditation every hour and a half on a day that I was very, very busy, and it was great. How did your growth in consciousness affect your daily work and activities? Are you more productive, in inverted commas, than before, or less productive? I know it's a weird word, productivity, but I mean efficient or active. Because do you even want to produce and be productive? Or what would that mean for you? I thought that maybe you have more tips/thoughts on it." Well, I think this is my level of my productivity. Things scribbled on a piece of paper. Nice paper, but still paper. Because I tried lots of different things over the years, all the to-do lists and the timers and all the different things, and very little of it worked for me. The things that kind of worked for me are getting clearer about what it is that is the biggest yes for me. That was very helpful, because I've sort of got lots of different talents, so I can do lots of different things, which is great. But it also means that it was very easy for me to get distracted into lots of different things. And I had have an art podcast where I interviewed artists for 10 years, lots and lots of artists. And I think it was through talking to them I realized what it was like. I got a little window into most of the artists I talked to. They could paint all day long, 7 days a week, from morning till evening. Wouldn't bother them at all. They'd love it. I love painting, but I couldn't do it for that. I couldn't do it like that. I loved making the art podcast, but I couldn't do it like that. But what I find is that talking about consciousness, I can do that. That's my biggest yes. I can do that all day long, all night long. It doesn't tire me, and whether it's in one-to-one sessions or making podcasts or writing, it's all circling around the same things. And I did that in lots of other areas. Like when I was painting, my paintings were talking about that. When I made music, my music was about that. When I made little films, it was about that. Everything was around that thing. So I think looking at what your biggest yes is very helpful for streamlining what you're doing. I'm right beside a building site, which is kind of cute for what we're talking about, which is productivity, but that's what the noise is. So that's important. Then the other thing is to surrender. If you live in a conscious life, then you can make plans and you can kind of go, okay, this is what I'm going to do today, but it may not go that way. And if you're very rigid about your plans and very tight about your plans and very like what I get done in a day equals how I feel about myself, it's not going to go well. That's a recipe for unhappiness. So, like, I make plans, but I'm also very sensitive to what's happening and where I'm moved to go. Like sort of being here in Innsbruck, I kind of go, oh, I think I'll go and see this thing today, and I'll go and see that other thing, whatever. And then I would find myself not doing those things, or going, it's like I'd come to a T junction, and I'm supposed to go left to go and visit this thing, and I go right, and to be okay with that, because it always works out for me, in terms of getting things done, like in one way, I'm super productive, Like I produce an hour or sort of half an hour podcast every week. I write a longish kind of piece of writing every week, blog post. I see people for one-to-ones during the week. That takes up like 3 days, blocked out for that. Now I do have help. Someone helps me with the video editing, and they're brilliant. So you could look at what I do and go, wow, you're very productive. But like from the inside, it's all pretty flimsy, Like yesterday, I had planned, I was going to shoot some video for this episode of the podcast. But when I woke up, I felt very fragile on the inside. And it wasn't the thing to do. So I just waited, just took care of myself. I made myself a cup of tea and just, I was sensitive to what was going on inside me. And in the end, I got everything that I wanted to do done at the end of the day. But if at the beginning of the day I was like, I've got to get it all done, I've got to get this stuff done, that wouldn't have gone well for me. So I think being surrendered to your life in consciousness is very helpful. I mean, that's just if you're interested in consciousness. If you're not, then push through and just force yourself and do all the things that people do. But you're asking me about consciousness and what I do, and this is what I do. Another thing I do is I set my intention for the day. So I have a rough idea of what I'm going to do, and I sort of express my preference. I focus my preference, and I kind of think about, it's almost like I extend my energy field out into the day, and I travel along it all day, meaning if I have, okay, I'm going to have this meeting with this person, so I'm like, okay, that meeting is going to go really well. It's going to go great for me, it's going to go great for that person. I'm going to be on time, they're going to be on time, it's going to be great. And then if I have to go somewhere, it's like, I'm going to go, it's going to be really easy, I'm going to arrive in plenty of time, it's going to work out way better than I thought, and so on. Every single thing that I have that I'm going to do that day, at the start of the day, I think about it, think it through, and very consciously express my preference for how I'd like that to go. That helps. I find that helps a lot. I have a tendency to try and pack a lot into a day. I lean towards doing that. So I have found that simplifying and kind of going, if I get these 5 things done, brilliant. I'm not going to try and sneak some other things in there, because it just makes me tired, and it takes away from the satisfaction of getting the things done that I want to get done. So keeping it simple and not loading the day with too many things, I do that. I do use that thing of Einstein time, meaning if I have something going on and I kind of go, that's a bit tight, that's a lot, then I consciously, when I'm setting my intention for how that's going to go, I'm like, I'm going to have plenty of time. There's going to be plenty of time to do that, even though on paper there isn't. But it's like I'm kind of using that thing of, when you're bored, time expands, and when you're having a great time, time contracts. That relativity of time, I kind of use that and go, it's gonna go great, and I'm gonna have plenty of time. Particularly if I think I'm not, then I consciously do that. But I think the main thing is to be responsive, like if some little new gizmo or gadget comes along, or a little app or something that seems like a good thing, I'll try it. I'll give it a go. At the moment, I don't use anything like that. I used to have very long to-do lists. I found them very demoralizing, and I never got to the end of them. Whereas now I just have a few little things, they're more reminders than anything else of like what is important, because I'll be in the middle of doing something, I'll go, I must do that, and then I'll just write it down so that I don't forget. And I find writing things down is better for me. I mean, I used to have it all in computers. I love computers. I, use them all the time. But I find just writing little lists, have a little notebook, or even scraps of paper, just that I leave around, and I like crossing them off. It's not very efficient. I mean, it's because there's some things that carry over, but it kind of works for me. So I think that thing of being responsive and having the priority right of conscious life first, and then everything flows from that, makes it a lot easier.
Farm news. Well, while I was away, lambs came. Lambs, lots and lots of lambs, which is always, it's lovely. It's very Disney-like. They're unbelievably cute. I mean, maybe you'll see some wandering around behind me. It's a bit rainy at the moment. There was some earlier on. Very cute, but you're also up against the reality of nature. Because when you see lambs, they look like little fluffy stuffed toys. They're so cute. You just, they look like you look like you're looking at a Disney movie, and that's beautiful. But then when you come across the first lamb that didn't make it, or you come across the first lamb that's been abandoned by their mother, and they're crying, and it's very shocking. When you see how nature kind of works, and there's all sorts of great wisdom in nature and the natural flow of things, but there's also what looks like cruelty. I'm sure it's not, but it looks like cruelty, and it's kind of harsh to come across. So lambs are always a kind of a mixed thing for me. I love seeing them, and they're so cute, but I'm always kind of like, because it's not a Disney movie. They're not all going to make it. So it's always like, well, I hope they're going to be okay, and So yeah, lambs. That's the farm news. And rain. How could I forget? But I did. I forgot how much it rains. When I was coming back, when I landed, and I was coming back from the airport, I was like, oh yeah, rain. It's not like it didn't rain in Innsbruck, but it didn't rain much, just a little bit. Whereas I think it feels like it's rained consistently since I've been back, but I'm sure it hasn't. I'm sure there've been some nice days. But yeah, I don't know what the word is, the relentlessness of the rain, that kind of, I'd forgotten that bit. Okay, let's have a look at some of the memes on the Further Emergence Instagram feed. The first one is, thoughts are not facts. Don't believe everything you think. And when you look at this, you kind of go, what? That doesn't make any sense. Thoughts are not facts. And then you kind of, you part of it. There's lots to this. Thoughts, like the first thing of thoughts are not facts, is very helpful if you're empathic or you're intuitive or you're trying to cultivate your intuition. Because when you're doing that, it's very easy to give it too much significance, or you sort of feel, it's very easy to develop a feeling that your intuition is like a calculator, or like a thermometer, or like something else like that. Certainly, let me qualify that. I'm very intuitive. I use my intuition all the time, particularly in my one-to-one work. And the stakes are very high in that, because people are coming to me in pain, physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain. So whether I'm right or not, it's kind of important. It's not just like, oh, I had a feeling about something and it doesn't really matter. It matters a lot. So I'm saying it from the place of using it, and use it all the time in very high stakes kind of situations. But even with that, I never think it's 100% accurate. I never think my sense of things is 100% accurate. I always have this feeling of humility, and that I can only ever see what I'm shown. and that I can get it wrong because it has to come through my little system, it has to come through my body, my brain, my thoughts, my prejudices, my, longings, my shadow, all my stuff, all my unconsciousness. It has to come through that. So I don't forget that. And I don't kind of go, oh, that's it now, I'm 100% right. And I think that's probably why I am as successful as I am. I think my intuition or my sense of things is probably about 95% right. But I never forget the 5%. And I've seen it with people where we all grow up in this materialistic kind of world, in this mechanistic kind of world where intuition is frowned upon and you're told, no, it's not true. It's not a real thing. And when you start to realize, I'm not so sure if that's not a real thing. I think maybe it is a real thing. It's easy to kind of get into a rebellious phase and go, no, everything my intuition tells me is true. And that is, it's gonna hurt you eventually, because eventually you'll get it wrong. Eventually you're 5%, or I mean, it's 5% now for me. It didn't start off like that. It's probably about 50-50 or a little bit more than 50-50. I think that's where it starts for most people. It's maybe 60-40, and the little extra 10% where you get it right too many times for it to be just random allows you to begin to believe it and sort of follow it. But, there's 40% that's, you're going to be wrong 40% of the time. So if you're going, no, everything my intuition tells me is correct, you're going to make some terrible decisions. You're going to choose the wrong people. You're going to choose the wrong place to live. You're going to choose all sorts of things. So you kind of have to hold these two things of like, this is what my intuition is telling me. This is what my experience is telling me, because your experience is useful as well. And hard-won experience, And, I mean, it goes into the mix of how do you want the world to go? How do you want your world to go? How do you want your life to go? All that kind of thing. But this idea that thoughts are not facts, that's a useful one to put in. And the difficult thing with this is not to undermine yourself, because you've been undermined your whole life when it comes to intuition, because the whole world is saying it's not true. And then you start to lean into it a bit. And you have to kind of cultivate it, So it's almost like you have to know that you're probably going to get it wrong some of the time. And when you do get it wrong, you just ignore it. You just let it go. You just don't put your focus on it. Just focus on the times you do get it right, and then that builds it. That grows it, But if you just kind of go, no, everything my intuition tells me is correct, then when you do get it wrong, it attacks the base of it, and it actually has the opposite effect of what you want. It diminishes it. It makes it shrink, because now you're sort of, because if you happen to mention it to people and they'll go, well, that's rubbish, and then it turns out to be wrong, then it's like, oh God, and you develop this mentality. Whereas if you know that you're not a weighing scales, you're not a barometer, you're not a thermometer, you're a dynamic, wonderful, amazing, multifaceted being, that you're not going to get a definite thing, that it's a moving, dynamic thing, and that sometimes you're not going to get it right. You're not going to get it right, and that's okay. But just focus on the times you do get it right, and they'll grow. So that's great. The other thing is not believing everything that you think. Now, that is a bit of a head wrecker, and it's a bit of a Zen koan kind of a thing. But what it does is it kind of points you towards your more than your mind, because your mind disappears every night. You lie down, you go to sleep, you're thinking, then thinking turns into dreaming, then dreaming turns into the psychic world, and then you drop out the bottom into deep dreamless sleep, where you have no body, no house, no legs, no thoughts, but more importantly, no you as you know yourself to be. Your mind is gone. And The only reason we don't resist going to sleep is because our mind kind of goes, well, it will all continue when I'm back. I'll just not be here for a while and then I'll be back. But what is not here? That's a very profound kind of thing. Where do we go? What happens? What happens to this mind, to my memories, to my history? Where does all that go? And that's a bit of a clue towards this idea of not believing everything that you think, or not being so attached to this whole personality, this whole existence, this whole thing. Because what happens in sleep, everything goes. Everything that's important to us goes. Our heartbreak, our memories, our deep loves, the things we fight to hang on to in life, our health, our body, all gone every night. Doesn't bother us, okay? Yet, we return from wherever it is that we go, and we feel refreshed. Now, I know you could say, well, that's a biological thing, John, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. But inside, we are refreshed. We wake up. If we get a good night's sleep, if we don't get to go into the mystery too much, because that's where we go. When we drop out the bottom into deep dream and sleep, we go into the mystery. If we can't get there, if we are disrupted sleep, like the other night, my cat, for some reason, kept coming upstairs and almost like on purpose tapping on the door. So when I woke up, I did not feel as refreshed as I normally do, because I was kind of coming back from the mystery all the time. I'd hear this little thing on the door and go, what's that? Oh yeah, it's just Ginger. Yeah. So I didn't fully wake up, and I didn't fully go into the mystery. I was kind of wavering in and out of it. So wherever it is that we go, we come back from it and we feel refreshed. And it's kind of the same in meditation. In meditation, certainly the way I meditate and the way I teach meditation, is you're kind of going into deep dreamless sleep, but you're doing it consciously. You're going into the mystery, but you're doing it consciously. So from doing that, you begin to go, because you're turning off, you're stopping thinking, you're turning off the pictures, you're turning off the sound. So you're doing that repeatedly, and you're going, well, I thought I was worried about that thing. I thought I was thinking about that thing, but I just turned it off, and yet I'm still here. In fact, I can see myself thinking. I can see the thoughts arising. I can see them coming. So if I am looking at something, I cannot be that thing that I'm looking at. Before I started meditation, I thought I was that thing. I thought I was the one worrying about why I said that to the greengrocer, or why I said that to that other person, or why they said that to me. I thought that was all me. But now I'm looking at it. I can kind of see it. Oh yeah, there I am thinking that. So if I'm seeing that, then I'm not that. So I'm something else. And that's what's so great about this, is that not believing everything that you think. Thinking is, it sort of feels like lots of little bubbles of thoughts that come together into what we call a personality and a mind and a construction, like that this is me. But it's not really. I'm something else, just like you are. Something deeply mysterious to myself and to other people, like you are to yourself and to other people. And seeing that, you sort of see the thoughts in a different context. You kind of go, okay. These thought things are useful for interacting with the world, for talking, for making podcasts, for doing all that kind of stuff. But they're not who I am. They're things that I have, It's like having a car. It's really handy having a car, particularly if you live in the country. Really handy. But I don't kind of look at my car and go, that's me, that's who I am. It's kind of the same with my mind and my thoughts. I can see them, I can use them, but I don't think they're me. And, you can see that in your own experience every night. Deep dream to sleep. You don't have to meditate. It helps if you meditate them. I mean, the difference between meditation and deep dream to sleep, it's just consciousness. Like in meditation, you're going to the same place, but you're doing it consciously. Whereas in deep dream to sleep, you don't have to do anything. You just lie down and it just all naturally kind of happens. You just go into the mystery. It's beautiful. So yeah, don't believe what you think, and thoughts are not facts. Brilliant. And the next one is billed as a Zen proverb. And it says, to understand nothing takes time.
It's a sort of a Zen koan, really, isn't it? It's definitely a head wrecker. Like, what? What do you mean to understand nothing takes time? Surely that doesn't take any time, because there's nothing. But it speaks to the difficulty of your mind understanding what's going on in meditation, certainly the way I teach meditation and the way I practice meditation. Because when I meditate, I'm going into the mystery. And the mystery is that place that we go to in deep dreamless sleep. You know, the bit after the dreams, the bit where there's nothing to speak of. No body, no mind, no personality. I mean, it sounds like death, really, doesn't it? And yet we love going there. We love going to this deep, mysterious place. And when we come back from it, we're refreshed. So there's something about it that is good. So that's where I aim to go to in meditation, is the same place I go to in deep dreamless sleep. So I call that the mystery, mainly because it's a mystery to me. Now, my mind, the part of me that's talking to you now, doesn't really understand it, because in order to get there, I have to stop thinking, which is, relatively easy, to stop thinking. Calm down. Most people go, what are you talking about? It's not very easy to stop thinking. It's not easy to stop thinking for a prolonged period of time, or meaning like for a minute at a time or anything like that. But it's very easy to stop thoughts, because thoughts are just pictures and sound. So if you turn off the pictures, or you make the pictures disappear and you make the sound disappear, that's it, you stop thinking. Now you might start thinking again a second later, an instant later, but that doesn't take away from the fact that when you stop thinking, you enter into the mystery. Now my mind can talk about that, but it doesn't really get it. It doesn't really understand it, because it's like when I go into the mystery in meditation, it's like I enter a room that my mind just can't go into. It's not like I'm going, you can't come in here. I'd be quite happy for my mind to go in there, but it's almost like there's a force field at the end. It disappears as it enters the mystery. So it's kind of talking about something it doesn't know. I know it, but my mind doesn't know it. And that's one of the things you get to see in meditation, is you get to sort of see, oh, I thought I was my mind. I thought all these thoughts were me. And you go, oh, they're not. So the nothing that they're talking about in this Zen koan or Zen proverb is not it's not like normal nothing. It's not like empty nothing. It's emptied of a lot of things. It's a very active and vibrant nothing. It's nothing to speak of, because my mind can't speak of it. And even, I'm kind of struggling here describing it, because I have to use my mind, I have to use words to try and convey it. But when I read that, thing of like getting to know nothing takes time. It takes time to know nothing. That's true, because I've been meditating for 30 years, and I know a lot more, or I'm familiar with the mystery a lot more than I was 30 years ago. It was very fresh and new, and kind of like, what is this? Because it's like, I often joke, like when I'm teaching meditation, is if you feel like you're having a great meditation, then you've left the mystery, because the only thing that's going to be going, oh, this is a really good one, I'm really deep now, I'm really having a deep meditation now. The only thing that's saying that is your mind. So if your mind is engaged, it means you're not in the mystery anymore. You've come back out again, you've got to turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, and go into the mystery again, and keep doing that over and over again. So this is a beautiful little phrase. Takes time to know nothing, or something like that. I can't remember if I'm quoting it correctly. And if you want to know the mystery more, come and join me for the Space for the Mystery every Monday. 2 sessions. You can read about it on the website. But it's a beautiful way of coming into the mystery together with other people and getting a deeper grounding of it. Because the more when you start off the week with this I didn't intend this to be a little promo for the Space for the Mystery, but it's kind of appropriate. When you start off the week by this kind of very deep knowing of the mystery, it makes your meditation on your own a lot easier. So yeah, I highly recommend the Space for the Mystery. It's very good. So yeah, getting to know nothing. It's an informed nothing. It's a nothing that comes with more and more time. And it's not nothing. It's nothing to speak of. It's nothing your mind can latch onto.
The next one, which I wrote, says, give it meaning. Find it, manufacture it, invent it. Direct all the creativity you can muster to giving your day meaning. It is a lifeline that will slowly lift you from the quicksand of monotony. Become an undercover saint. Spend your day giving, reaching out, supporting, listening, meditating, loving, encouraging. You can change the world. You're doing great. The idea of becoming an undercover saint is very subversive in lots of ways to ourselves. And it's the undercover part. That's the bit that's very eroding on the inside of unconsciousness. Because we all want to be seen to be kind and giving and loving, because we all have this feeling that we're not. We've all had it put into us at a very early age that there's something fundamentally a bit off with us. It's everywhere. It's in most religions, but even religion aside, it's just culturally we have this feeling of, left to our own devices, we'll just become very cruel and be like hard on each other. People kind of go, oh, Lord of the Rings, it's like Lord of the Rings. And Lord of the Rings is like, or not Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Flies. It's like Lord of the Flies. Lord of the Rings is a different thing. That would be a different connotation. But people kind of go, yeah, it was, they got stuck in this place and then it turned into Lord of the Flies. Like, that's what's going to happen with humans when you put them together. Or there's a famous experiment that was done with students, college students. I think it was Berkeley, could be wrong, somewhere in America, California. And they separated the students into inmates and like prison wardens. And within 4 days, the experiment had to be stopped because the wardens became so cruel and inhumane to the inmates and so on. And this feeling of like, yeah, fundamentally we're pretty awful, left to our own devices, base human nature and all that kind of thing. None of which is true. None of which is actually true. There's a great book by Rutger Bregman called Humankind, where he goes into, he kind of goes, I have a feeling that's not true. Now let me apply my academic brain to finding out if it is actually true. And he, goes into the Lord of the Flies thing, and that it's a fiction, and he talks about the author and how the author's psychological state, let's put it like that, in a kind of way. Then he found actual schoolboys that were trapped on an island in off the coast of Tonga, I think it was, and a beautiful story, how they helped each other through this very difficult thing. They were lost for a long time, and how they're still friends today, and they're in their 60s, I think, now, and they meet, and they've got this deep bond with each other. Okay, that's the real Lord of the Flies. That's what you and I are actually like, Same with the famous Berkeley experiment, it was all very contrived. When you get into it, it's not actually true, But it supports this idea of, oh yeah, fundamentally we're all right. And you have it and I have it, this feeling of like, yeah, deep down I'm pretty awful, right? So becoming an undercover saint is a great way of giving your day meaning. That's true. But it also is a way, you do that for a year of doing profound kindnesses for people or animals or plants or the planet or anything. And don't tell anybody. Don't tell a soul, so that it's just between you and you. And you'll find that erodes that deep feeling of something's a bit off, I could be better, I could be whatever. Because you're seeing it and you're not doing it it's not a performative, look at how kind I am, look at how lovely I am, or anything like that. That's the importance of not telling anybody about it. You're quietly, giving people a bit of money, giving people a bit of help, leaving things for people. I mean, when you apply your creativity to it, you can come up with all these fantastic ways of being an undercover saint. And no one will know. And you're not doing it for anybody else, but you're doing it because what will happen is you'll be eroding this feeling of, I'm a bit off, underneath it all. You'll be eroding that. And then you'll also realize, I'm really enjoying this. There's something deeply satisfying about doing this. It's speaking to a very deep part of me, and I'm really enriched by this. I mean, I just gave that person 20 whatevers, dollars, euros, vegetables, whatever. They don't know it was me. So they got the vegetables, but I got this thing inside me. I got to see something about myself. That thing is not true. I'm actually good. I'm very good. Look at it. I've been doing it all year, this kind of thing. So, strongly encourage you to become an undercover saint. Try it. Try it for a year. And if it doesn't work, feel free to write to me and let me know. I tried that undercover saint thing. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't feel any better. Okay? You can let me know about that. But I suspect it will go the other way. And I'd like to hear about that as well. You can let me know how great it goes. So yeah, Undercover Saint. Highly recommend it.
All right, well, that's all I have for you this time. I trust you're well. I trust you're of good cheer. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.